Chapter 41, Unable to Rebel. Badum, beadum. The head butler was quiet, apart from his fingers drumming against the tabletop as he fell deep in thoughts. He couldn't help being tempted by Fong Lang's proposition, but something felt amiss. What was so difficult about admission into Interstellar University? Interstellar universities recruited students from human population across the entire universe and had only that many admission slots. Only a few thousands accepted would have been the cream of the crop. Besides, there weren't many students who could take part in the examination every year, and the competition was intense. The probability of being admitted would be 1 to 10,000, 100,000. Perhaps even 1,000,000 to 1? This Fong Lang had vitality of 1.5 and was only an apprentice. He was far away from being an actual cultivator. How could he get into Interstellar University? One must understand that there were many prodigies in each generation of the Fong clan, and only a few had hope of getting into Interstellar University, much less a low-grade clansman. Forget about being admitted to Interstellar University. While it was still 7 to 8 months away from the entrance exams, it wasn't possible for an apprentice to improve that drastically and become a true cultivator. Wouldn't he have to return to his work obediently at the end of the day? The head butler didn't think that a mere low-grade clansman could surpass the prodigies in their clan in such a short time and get admitted into Interstellar University. Finally, he managed to pinpoint what was wrong. No, that isn't right. He was almost tricked by this rascal. If he had agreed, then Fong Lang would have gained freedom if he won. Even if he lost, he would have delayed half a year's time before interning at the factory. He wouldn't have suffered any loss. Without notice, he would have wielded the power over the clan rules and rebelled against it. If everyone followed suit, then wouldn't a rebellion occur? Good lad, he really was a great match. No, he most definitely could not agree to it. Watching Fong Lang's calm expression, head butler let out a gasp inwardly. This lad may be young, but he was practically an evildoer inside. Even so, he was still too inexperienced. A sneer lifted the corner of his lips. Much as the head butler was impressed, he would never allow anyone to take advantage of the loophole in their clan rules. No one can deviate from the clan rules. No one. What a joke. It is your responsibility to carry out your duty to the clan. This cannot be cast aside, so what right do you have to use this as a proposition? As a member of the clan, you should follow the rules obediently and not spend your time on these daydreams. The clan will not allow you to bet on this, the head butler answered coldly. Though he was smiling, his words were humorless, pushing Fong Lang down to a bottomless pit. Fong Lang frowned. He didn't think that the head butler would take away even the opportunity of a bet. He replied slowly, "Could it be that as the clan's head butler, you don't even possess the slightest bit of courage? What help would a little factory staff have towards the clan? If you won, I would return to work obediently, and if you lost, the clan would gain an Interstellar University student. Isn't that the biggest benefit? What would you have against it?" What a joke. The head butler didn't hide the disdain. "Don't play such tricks with me. Provoking me is useless. If you can gain admission to Interstellar University, then wouldn't the countless seniors and prodigies of the Fong clan become good for nothing? If they couldn't do it, you think you can? I'm telling you it's impossible. The clan rules are not for you to play. If you insist on being stubborn, then don't blame me for punishing you accordingly." A thorough threat, leaving Fong Lang with an ultimatum. Fong Lang's expression turned grave, feeling the pressure imposed from the depths of his heart. Such decadent, clan-level strictness was suffocating. Every rule was like a chain, wrapped around the person in a vice grip. There was not a hint of freedom, making a person wish they could flee immediately. Now, this head butler wouldn't even grant the chance of a bet. He was practically forcing him on to the dead end. The head butler watched on, satisfied by Fong Lin's hopeless expression. He nodded his head as he felt everything was in his control. It's not that I'm not giving you a chance. You wish to be rid of this internship? That's easy. With a sudden glint, he spoke up in amusement as he waited for Fong Lin's reaction. Would it be despair? Or despair? And even more despair. How? Fong Lin asked lowly, skeptical of the head butler's display of kindness. The terms must have been an infuriating one. Even so, for his own future, he didn't care much of it. Whatever it was, he would give it a shot. There are two ways. 1. You'll become a true basic cultivator before the internship. When that happens, the clan will support you fully in attending the entrance exams for Interstellar University. The other way is for you to compensate the clan for bringing you up, and pay an amount of 1,000,000 star coins. Thereafter, you can achieve your freedom. The head butler laughed sinisterly. What? Fong Lin's eyes darkened. He had only 3 weeks before the start of the internship. It was practically impossible to become a basic cultivator in that short amount of time. Yet, the other way would require him to pay 1,000,000 star coins. How was he supposed to pay such an exorbitant amount? Isn't that robbery? Besides, as a low-grade clansman, what had the clan given him growing up? Low nutrition fluids and nothing more. That would require 1,000,000 star coins? This must be the most hilarious joke in the entire world. Observing Fong Lin's silence, the head butler's smile turned cold. No cultivation. No money? Then what right you have to negotiate with me? Did you think the clan was a charity? The clan went through the effort in raising you, yet you want to escape your responsibility. Now, you only have these 2 choices. You either do your duty obediently, or pay the fee. Otherwise, there's nothing to talk about. His sinister laughter was ceaseless, appreciating the view of Fong Lin's despair and helplessness. Fong Lin pursed his lips into a tight line, refusing to give up just like that. He knew that he could retreat. If he did, he would never be able to turn his life around. I reject. Although he knew that the repercussions would be unimaginable, Fong Lin still gave his answer. At this point, he no longer had any room to retreat. What? Fong Lang was stunned by the sight. Does this guy have a death wish? The head butler has already told him that it is impossible, yet he still seems so fearless. The head butler will never let it go. Fong Lang seemed to have seen the impending, miserable end of Fong Lin. Reality seemed to be unraveling in that direction as well. Come again? At the sound of his words, the head butler's expression darkened. The thick aura surrounding him rolled in waves, rushing towards him. The immense pressure he felt previously rose. It had felt like a hill pressing against him before, but it felt as heavy as a mountain now. Fong Lin tried his hardest to keep his back straight, refusing to bend over. Creak, creak. The creaking began to sound continuously from his spine, as though it was about to break. A man's spine could never break. Once broken, they could never stand up straight again. Fong Lin held a sullen expression, tightening both his hands into tight fists. His nails dug into his palms as blood began dripping from the contact. This might will never push me down. Was this the power of a basic cultivator? How much was his vitality? 10? 20? Or even? He had never felt as weak as he did now, and the thirst to grow stronger was even more insatiable than it did before. What a pity. In the end, he still lacked the time and opportunity. The pressure of destiny was already in front of his eyes before he could strengthen himself. Why would he have to suffer through such indignance otherwise? Given more time, he could have destroyed everything with his fists. Seeing that he was unwilling to admit defeat, the head butler lost his patience. With a casual wave of his hand, a gust of violent gale swept over. Like a sandbag without defense, Fong Lan's body was cast aside by the force, knocking hard against the walls and landing unceremoniously on the ground. Guards. Fong Lang has defied the clan rules. Place him in detention for a week. If he commits any crime during that time, then force him into the clan's factory. The head butler's voice rang with authority. Even if he deemed that Fong Lang had committed a crime, it wasn't worth a death penalty. He had given what he thought as the most worthy severe punishment. The gates opened without sound as three muscular men dressed in black walked over stoically. This was the clan's enforcement team. Every one of them had a vitality of at least 3. They were fierce and imposing, sneering as they surrounded Fong Lang. Fong Lang swayed as he got up and let out a cough as he yanked himself away from their hold. "Get your hands off, I can walk by myself." With that, he gave a final, unimpressed glance towards the head butler before leaving with his head held high. In the end, he never did bend his spine. At the side, Fong Lang was stunned. What a great lad, a real man indeed. The head butler stared coldly after Fong Lan's retreating figure, expressionless as though he was looking at an inanimate object. Want to defy and bring chaos to the clan rules without being a basic cultivator? Dream on. Slowly, he opened his palms, his fingers curled as though it was holding something, looking like Buddha's Wuji mountain, *. Fong Lang was like the monkey in his palms, no matter how much he leaped. He would never be able to rebel. Chapter 42, Cultivating while imprisoned. In the dim room that was about to be locked, Fong Lang was violently pushed. He staggered and only managed to regain his footing with great difficulty. Boom! A loud noise rang out. The door behind him was slammed shut as he was locked inside this prison with nowhere to escape. Darkness was everywhere. He couldn't even see the fingers on his hand when he stretched his hands out. Obediently stay inside the imprisonment room. Don't try anything funny. This fellow simply has guts as big as the skies. He actually dares to disobey the head butler. He doesn't know how the word death is written. This person is already crippled. After offending the head butler, there's no way out for you in your entire lifetime. The clan's disciplinary squadron locked Fong Lang into the imprisonment room, laughing as they left. Fong Lang sat cross-legged on the ground, his face fading into the darkness as his expression grew heavy. He couldn't help but admit that his thinking was far too naive. This time around, his head-on confrontation for a negotiation had completely failed, and he even ended up in such desperate straits. He naively overestimated the goodwill of the clan. He didn't expect the head butler would be so cruel, not bothering to even give him a chance. His suggestion of a bet was rejected as well, and he was directly locked up here. Right now, all his hopes were dashed. What should he do next? Fong Lang was clueless, but he didn't intend to give up. Because, the moment he gave up, it would really have meant that he would have no more opportunities. As a human experiencing 2 lifetimes, what else couldn't he see through? Everything had to be fought for. If he gave up without fighting, he wouldn't have the slightest hope at all. Hence, until the last moment arrived, he would absolutely never give up. The 4 walls inside the imprisonment room were constructed with alloys. They were like an iron bastion, an impenetrable fortress. Without the door being opened from the outside, not even a fly could manage to fly out if it was trapped inside. Escape was impossible. Also, there were no forms of any technology inside here. It isolated all signals, and he had no way to communicate with the outside world. Darkness, his only companion, making so that he couldn't even sense the flow of time. This place was a cage that was built to engender despair. If someone was trapped inside here for too long, they might even go crazy. Fong Lin had only stayed in here for a short while, but he was already feeling extremely anxious and frustrated. He wanted to scream out loud to vent his emotions. He didn't know whether his parents and siblings would worry because they didn't know of his current situation. However, continuing to wait wasn't a solution. If he couldn't think of a way out, why didn't he cultivate? Fong Lin's state of heart gradually calmed down. He wanted to use cultivation as a way to while the time away. Strength was the only fundamental, it was everything. He had to accumulate strength bit by bit to use them in appropriate situations effectively. He needed to use all opportunities and effectively utilize the time he had to increase his strength. Hence, Fong Lin told himself that he couldn't waste his time by being dispirited. He had to put all his efforts into cultivating despite being trapped in this dark imprisonment room. Under the cover of darkness, a mocking smile lit up his face. Did you think that imprisoning me would suppress my will to fight and cause me to sink into despair? No. It would only spur me on to grow stronger. Bang, bang, bang. Not long later, the sounds of punches rang out in the sealed imprisonment room. Space was trembling from the force. The wind generated by the punches blasted into the walls like thunder, causing the hearts of those who heard it to tremble. After finishing a round of his practice with the Vajra subduing devil fist, Fong Lin's sharp senses discovered that his genetic potential didn't even increase by a single point. It seemed like the nutrients he had consumed from the potion of life earlier had now been completely exhausted. He couldn't continue practicing on forcefully like this, or his life force might end up being overdraft again. From his robes, he carefully took out a bottle that was filled with amber-colored liquid. This was a bottle of a potion of life. This might be the stroke of luck that he needed. Earlier, those people from the disciplinary squadron basically didn't expect that a low-grade clansman like Fong Lin would actually have such valuable potions. Hence, they didn't search his body, or they would have definitely taken all of the potions of life. Currents of icy cold and fiery heat flooded his body. The familiar effects of the potion of life hit in the moment he swallowed it. The cold energy soon transformed into warm currents akin to lava. Right now, he felt like he was being barbecued on the stove. The blazing heat tempered his body as a transformation occurred. Agony was like tides of the ocean, coming forth in a wave, challenging his spirit and endurance, wanting to drown him in this boundlessly vast darkness. However, with his prior experience, Fong Lin didn't feel any panic. He sat cross-legged in the darkness and endured the agony while quickly adjusting his body to the transformation. His chi and blood churned as his sweat dripped onto the ground. His clothes were soon wet from the sweat as they stuck to his body. The violent energy currents surged forth around his body, challenging the limits of his body again and again. Each and single part of his body was filled with pain. His organs broke down and reassembled, growing stronger and stronger with each cycle. This time, his experience wasn't that different from the first time he had consumed a potion of life. Fong Lin had gradually gotten used to it. The warm currents in him continued flowing into every part of his body, seeping into the depths. The energy flowed into his organs, his cells, his cell nuclei, layer by layer, from the external to the internal, all the way to the genes. Fong Lin began to radiate a burst of red light. This red light was clear and transparent, yet it had a dark color causing the light to resemble blood. As the heat seeped in, Fong Lin vaguely could see a familiar scene once again, giving him a feeling akin to déjà vu. In the dark space of the vast universe, the microscopic true form of genes appeared in his vision. They were like two pythons that coiled together, slowly revolving as they rose up in space continuously. The scalding medicinal strength of the potion continued to seep in. It was like a spark that lit up every single one of his genes, igniting the entire prairie. The double helix model that represented his genes rapidly multiplied, emitting a light akin to the stars, pure, mysterious, and ancient. The starlight converged, swiftly extending through the darkness. Under the assistance of the potency of the potion, the genes unceasingly divided and gave rise to new life matter that proliferated through his entire body. His cells, his blood, his organs. His entire being felt as though it was being reconstructed as it carried out an all-out transformation of life evolution. He grew taller, faster, and stronger. Crack, crack. Fong Lang suddenly straightened his back. His bones were emitting cracking sounds resembling firecrackers. His sweat formed out of impurities in his body, mixed together with blood, forming a sticky substance on his skin. However, it was much better compared to the previous time. His muscles quivered. The grime and dirt on him fell onto the ground as his body regained its cleansed state. This was even more convenient than taking a shower. After experiencing the previous transformation brought by the potion of life he had consumed, his body now was gradually approaching the perfect state as it continued to evolve. The impurities in his body grew lesser as the degree of change after consuming the potion also grew smaller. This time, his viewpoint was the same. He no longer grew taller and maintained his current appearance. Clearly, 1.9 meters tall was the best suitable height for humans. His height, his speed, and strength had reached a perfect state. Fong Lang knew there was definitely a transformation that happened inside his body. He immediately viewed his genetic information. Name, Fong Lang. Vitality, 2.5. Monkey gene, 10. Stonebirth gene, 8. Genetic potential, 178%. His potential didn't increase, and the strengthening tally of his genes didn't increase as well. His vitality had some changes. It increased by 0.2 and reached 2.5. Next, Fong Lang continued to cultivate assiduously. He wasn't aware of the flow of time. He would just sleep when he got tired and would continue with his cultivation once he was awake, all while digesting the potency of the potion of life. This cycle of action was simple, yet boring. However, it was like he didn't know fatigue. He actually found joy in completing the cycle. Humans were social creatures, after all. Being imprisoned was an extremely torturous ordeal, yet Fong Lang gradually managed to seek solace in the midst of the darkness. This imprisonment room had actually provided him with a quiet place for cultivation. As he continued to consume the potions of life, the nutrients depleted by his training would be replenished again and again. Genetic potential plus 18%, plus 16%, plus 14%. His genetic potential explosively soared. Very soon, his genetic potential reached 308%, granting him 3 free genetic points to spend. It was enough to push the Stonebirth gene to its max. His vitality surged up, swiftly reaching 2.9. He was just a single step away from reaching 3. In the short span of time, by using the potions of life and his genetic equation ability, he was improving rapidly. However, all these were still far from sufficient. The head butler was a true interstellar cultivator. Just based on his vitality stats alone, the head butler could crush him completely. If he wanted to resist, he had to become a true interstellar cultivator as well. The road ahead was still long. Fong Lang took a short break before he continued with his cultivation again. He was like an Iron Man that didn't know fatigue. Tap, tap. Suddenly, the sound of light footsteps rang out, gradually getting closer. Fong Lang's ears moved slightly. His sharp senses had heard that. He turned and shouted out, "Who is it?" "Fong Lang, I'm here to see you." A burst of low-sounding laughter rang out. Fong Lang felt strange. He had always been alone in the clan and didn't interact much with anyone. Who would pay him a visit in the imprisonment room? In fact, who would know that he had been locked up? He felt extremely bewildered in his heart. However, This voice was familiar to him. It was just that he temporarily couldn't recall who it belonged to. When that person revealed his identity, Fong Lang got a shock. This was an unexpected guest that he would have never thought of. Chapter 43, Pitting Schemes. Playful-sounding laughter rang out in the dead silence of the area. I'm Fong Lang. You didn't expect that I would come and see you, right? It's you? Fong Lang's face was covered in the darkness. His expression was naturally not revealed. Tell me, as a low-grade clansman, shouldn't you be content with what you have? Why must you go against the head butler? Are you asking for trouble? Fong Lang stood outside the imprisonment room as he nagged in an earnest and well-meaning manner. Why? Are you here to mock me? Fong Lang abruptly interrupted with his cold tone. You are mistaken. Fong Lang was very calm. I have no intentions to mock you at all. I'm really impressed by you. Hee hee. Fong Lang laughed. The words spoken by this Fong Lang was as fake as it could be. He didn't trust this person at all. He replied calmly, impressed by me? Are you joking? As the direct grandson of the clan leader, you belong to the upper echelons of the clan. Would you be impressed by me, a low-grade clansman? It's true. Upon seeing that Fong Lang didn't believe him, Fong Lang's tone grew more sincere. Don't you know that you are now extremely famous within the clan? It has been such a long time since anyone dared to rebut the head butler, let alone making a gambling bet with him. There are many brothers in our clan who wish to get acquainted with such a character like you. His words were filled with praise, but there was a slick feel of oiliness. Most probably, 9 out of 10 sentences he had spoken were all fake. Even though he was inside the imprisonment room, Fong Lang was seemingly able to see the hypocritical smile on Fong Lang's face. No need. Fong Lang calmly spoke, politely declining the goodwill from Fong Lang. He sat cross-legged on the cold ground and closed his mouth, not bothering to say anything more. This Fong Lang was a well-known silk pants young master of the Fong clan. He depended on his lineage to get benefits but was an ignorant and incompetent person. The friends who mixed with him were naturally the same as well. After all, birds of a feather flocks together. Fong Lang didn't have any interest nor time to mix with these silk pants of his Fong clan. Let alone the fact that Fong Lang wasn't even his friend. Originally, Fong Lang and him had a conflict, but now, he actually came here for no rhyme nor reason to seek him out. Even if he used his ass to think, he understood that there was something wrong. Fong Lang wasn't so foolish to the extent where he would trust people blindly. If not, he wouldn't even know it when others betrayed him. Seeing that his honey words were useless, and Fong Lang was ignoring him, Fong Lang's expression instantly hardened, becoming extremely unsightly. After all, silk pants young masters all wanted their face. However, Fong Lang, who was imprisoned, naturally couldn't see the change in Fong Lang's expression. Fong Lang gradually calmed down, his tone grew heavy, and no one could see through what he was thinking about. Fong Lang, we might have a minor grudge between us, but if there's no discord, there would be no concord. When I saw your courage when you rebutted against the head butler, I already knew that I want to be acquainted with you, he spoke. A cold smile appeared on Fong Lang's face that was shrouded by the darkness. You want to play your little schemes in front of me? Who do you think you're fooling? Seeing that Fong Lang continued to ignore him, Fong Lang gritted his teeth, understanding that this man had wariness in his heart against him. It wouldn't be easy to fool him. How angry was he? In the clan, because he was of the direct line of descendants, he could always act tyrannically with no one daring to say no to him. When had he ever been faced with such a situation? He came all the way here to fawn on a low-grade clansman, yet he was completely disregarded? If he gave in to his temper, he would have long erupted. But because of his purpose, he could only tell himself to endure this for now. He might be angry, but he had to endure it. Fong Lang, you are the angriest one. No, you are the greatest. Endure, I'll endure again and again. Finally, after a difficult inner struggle, Fong Lang controlled the anger in his heart. Fong Lin, we might have a grudge between us, but what can that count for? We are merely young and impulsive. We can still become friends. Let alone you, even I have enough of the head butler. He is simply too tyrannical and kept ruthlessly suppressing me. We are on the same side. Fong Lang kept talking, wanting to shorten the emotional distance between him and Fong Lin. No matter how glib your tongue is, it won't be of any effect if my ears are deaf. These words drifted into Fong Lin's left ear and exited from the right. He didn't bother with what Fong Lang was saying at all. One who is unaccountably solicitous is undoubtedly hiding evil intentions. Fong Lin would only believe him if he was dumb. Looking at how pitifully this fellow was describing himself, those who didn't know his reputation would truly assume that Fong Lang was living a hellish life. But the reality was that Fong Lang was the grandson of the clan leader. His allowance from the clan would always be over 10,000 star coins per month. Clearly, he came here with some strange intentions. This fellow was going all out to try to get close to a low-grade clansman like him. Clearly, he had some scheme up his mind. Fong Lin wanted to see what scheme this fellow was playing, but he couldn't act like he was the one taking the initiative. This was a pitting of the schemes. If he could beat Fong Lang at his own game, he might be able to make use of this person to find a way out of his current predicament. Hence, no matter what Fong Lang said, even when his saliva was splashing everywhere from talking too much, Fong Lin remained unmoved. It lasted until Fong Lang's tongue was exhausted, until Fong Lang completely had no strength left. Fong Lang stood outside the imprisonment room as he panted. There was an ugly expression on his face. He wanted nothing more than to leave this place at this instant. However, his feet were stuck to the ground like glue. He really wanted to leave, but he didn't do so. The grudge he felt was minor, but the purpose he was here was more important. Before he achieved his purpose, he wasn't willing to leave here just like that. Yet, this Fong Lin was like a smelly and unyielding rock, completely ignoring him, causing him to not know what to do. The two of them contemplated in this silence. Only the breathing of each other made them aware of their respective existences. Just when Fong Lang couldn't bear it anymore and had turned to leave, Fong Lin laughed softly, breaking the silence. He lazily spoke, "Just tell me directly what you want. You should stop displaying your minor schemes before my eyes." Fong Lang halted before he took another step, feeling incomparably depressed. "Hey, you are doing this intentionally, right? You ignored me for so long and only bothered to speak with me when I wanted to leave. Wasn't Fong Lin playing him for a fool?" This was clearly intentional. Actually, not only was Fong Lin aware of this, wasn't he also aware as well? This was an invisible gamble. Who was the hunter? Who was the prey? Whoever was the most patient would occupy the advantage. Now, it was clear that Fong Lin had evidently already occupied the initiative. It seemed like it was really not so easy to control Fong Lin. Fong Lang silently sighed and felt sorry for Fong Lin. Someone like him with such a temperament was actually a low-grade clansman. His birth was too low, this was truly a pity. But that was also good. Only those who could scheme so deeply could help him to do what he wanted. Also, only those with such low birth would be easier to control. Wasn't it precisely that he saw all these good points in Fong Lin that he ignored his face and came here to seek him out? When he heard Fong Lin said this, Fong Lang was clear that his intentions today had already been seen through. It was useless to beat around the bush. His expression turned solemn as he straightforwardly said, "Do you know that the year is ending? At the end of the year, the clan will organize an event for the clan members to offer sacrifices to our ancestors. At that time, a ranking competition would be held inside our clan, and all Fong clansmen that qualify for the college exam next year can enter to try. For those who are ranked highly, they would be able to obtain the full support of the clan, which can be used as a foundation to get good grades in the college exams. What does this have to do with me? Fong Lin calmly spoke, not being moved the slightest. He was well aware that this ceremony wasn't something that only the Fong clan had. All the small clans of humanity in the interstellar era would hold such a ceremony to offer sacrifices to their ancestors, tracing back their bloodline, the origin of their genes, and increasing the cohesiveness of the clan. But, what had all of this got to do with him, a low-grade clansman? He didn't believe that these people of the upper echelons would treat him like an equal. Have you forgotten? Fong Lang had a self-satisfied smile. That head butler kept speaking about the rules of the clan, believing himself to be the protector of the clan rules, right? In that case, the clan rules clearly state that all clansmen of the Fong clan have to be given the equal rights to choose. If they want to participate, nobody can stop them, not even the head butler. Hence, based on theory, everyone in our Fong clan can participate in the ranking competition as long as they met the prerequisite, regardless of their social hierarchy. Fong Lin's brows furrowed, his heart was finally stirred. You are saying. Chapter 44, Asking a Fox for its Skin. Not bad. It was like he knew what Fong Lin wanted to say next. Fong Lang instantly continued with his words. As long as you have enough strength and gain a good ranking in the ranking competition of the clan, you would be able to earn recognition and toss aside the fate of you becoming a factory worker. Low-grade clansmen are still clansmen. As long as you can exhibit startling talent, who would suppress you? Even the head butler would be powerless to act against you. Fong Lang's tone was filled with instigation. Clearly, he wanted to provoke Fong Lin into joining the ranking competition. Fong Lin was naturally aware of this, but he didn't mind it. Because Fong Lang's words weren't false. This ranking competition would truly be of great help to him, allowing him to escape from the predicament that was currently before him. This ranking competition isn't bad, but I'm already about to be escorted to the factory to work. How can I avoid this? Water from afar isn't able to save a near fire. How would I get the chance to enter the clan's ranking competition? Fong Lin silently mumbled. This would depend on whether you have the courage or not. Fong Lang's eyes narrowed to slits, gleaming with sharpness. He felt that he had taken back the initiative. To do what? Fong Lin directly asked. This Fong Lang was clearly making use of him, but Fong Lin couldn't care less. As long as he could get out of his predicament, all other things were considered minor matters. There wouldn't be mercy without any reason. If you obtained something, others would definitely covet it. You had to pay a price to get what you wanted, an equal exchange. This was something steeped in logic. Fong Lin was thinking about how he could obtain the greatest benefits out of this exchange. Certain that Fong Lin wouldn't reject him, Fong Lang laughed. You have to think of a method to leave the clan and escape the factory assignment. Come back in a domineering manner only when the time for the ranking competition comes. At that time, display overwhelming strength to sway the family to your side. So simple? I'd just have to escape from the clan. Fong Lin started. Wasn't this too easy? So easy that it felt unreal. You think it is easy? Escape? Where can you run to? Fong Lang sneered. What era is this? Even in the ancient Earth era, there's something called GPS, a global monitoring system. In the interstellar era, if someone wants to monitor you, it's useless no matter where you flee to. It's not that I'm trying to frighten you, but if the clan really wants to find you, in this vast planet Earth, they wouldn't even need 3 seconds. In fact, in this entire solar system, they wouldn't need more than 10 seconds. Fong Lin fell silent. He speculated that Fong Lang, as an upper-grade clansman, should be privy to some secrets that ordinary clansmen wouldn't know. How? He bluntly asked. Since Fong Lang had already revealed some secrets, he didn't plan to hide anything anymore. For every clansman, since they grew up in the clan's influence would seep into all aspects of the clansmen's daily lives. Even the identity microchip you have is obtained from the clan. Do you really think that the clan wouldn't do anything to the microchip? How naive. You low-grade clansmen weren't told of this, only descendants of direct descent like me would know about it. Each clansman's ID microchip is tracked by the clan's AI. The clan's authority over your microchip is even higher than yourself. They can override it easily and use it against you. This means that no matter what you want to do, which location you are at, the clan can know everything. There's nowhere for you to flee. Also, each ID microchip is bound to a person. One cannot change it easily. Once you changed it, you will definitely rouse the clan's suspicion, and they would immediately take actions to monitor you closely. Fong Lang's words were like a thunderbolt ringing out in his mind, devastatingly shocking. Every human in this interstellar era had their own identity microchip, but to think that this was actually a monitoring tool used by the clan to keep their members in check. This made Fong Lin extremely uncomfortable. This meant that if the clan so intended, they would be able to monitor him without him knowing. He would not be able to keep any secrets from them. Fong Lin silently grabbed his ID microchip in his hand. This microchip was manufactured from a transparent, glass-like substance, incorporating the highest technology available in this era. Its toughness was incomparable. It could even be used to block bullets at crucial moments. This wasn't a joke. Humanity was now all over the universe, several billion in number. There were scientific institutions who did a calculation before. Every day, there were a few people using their microchips to block bullets. This was already considered old news. Even with Fong Lin's strength, his fingers made cracking sounds as they attempted to crush the microchip. He couldn't damage it at all. Fong Lang shook his head when he saw this. He silently added, "Don't waste your effort. The microchip isn't something you can destroy. Also, without an ID microchip, it would be extremely tough for you to move about in the human world. You would become an unregistered resident and would be pursued no matter where you go. I'm sure this isn't the outcome you want. Since you know all this, what is the meaning behind those words you told me earlier?" Fong Lin counter-asked. He didn't lose his cool. This Fong Lang wasted so much breath to tell him so many things. It was impossible for the information to be useless. And indeed, the truth was as he expected. Who said that there's no meaning? I can tell you the truth, because I have a way to resolve this issue. I'm of the direct line of descent. My authority in controlling the clan's AI is much higher than yours. Hence, I spent some effort and gained the passcode to unlock your microchip from the AI system. As long as you access the back end of your ID microchip and input the passcode, you would unlock the shackles and free yourself from being located and monitored by the clan's AI. By doing so, no matter where you want to go, the clan wouldn't be able to track you down. What are your conditions for me to acquire the passcode? Fong Lin didn't feel happy. He remained calm as he asked. Food wouldn't fall from the sky. There wouldn't be something good happening to you without reason. If you wanted something, he naturally had to pay an equivalent price in return. Good, you are straightforward enough. Since Fong Lin had asked, Fong Lang didn't beat around the bush either. Firstly, I'm impressed by your courage and wish to give you a path to walk. Secondly, when you participate in the clan's ranking competition, I hope you can finish off 3 opponents for me. I hope you won't reject this. Fong Lang seemed to have thought of something embarrassing as he gritted his teeth. So, it turns out that he wants to use me to settle his opponents? Fong Lin didn't feel surprised at all. With regards to many things Fong Lang had said earlier, Fong Lin didn't believe it. But for the last part, it was fully believable. With humans, there would always be competition and conflict. For low-grade clansmen, they had nothing to fight each other for, hence, they led relatively peaceful lives despite being poor. But it was different for members of the upper echelons. They appeared to be in an extremely good environment, enjoying the clan's resources, but it was impossible for the human heart not to feel greed. As their bottom lines slowly corroded away, they would want to obtain more and more. In order to fight for limited and valuable resources, they naturally could do anything. Even in the feudal era, there would be royalty fighting in the imperial palace. The human clans of the interstellar era weren't that much different. Which clan wouldn't have a little competition and conflict within their ranks? The more glorious the clan appeared on the surface, the fiercer would the competition be within. Since this Fong Lang is willing to go to such an extent, ignoring his face to make a deal with me who have a conflict with the head butler. Most likely, he will soon be forced into a dead end as well. Hence, he wants to use this chance to get me to participate in the ranking competition, seizing an opportunity to fight for more authority, using me to suppress his opponents. It seemed like he couldn't underestimate anyone from the upper echelons. This Fong Lang appeared to be a silk pants young master, but he was truly a deep schemer, as crafty as a fox. Many thoughts flashed through Fong Lin's mind, and he was sure that he had guessed at least 80% to 90% of Fong Lang's objective. He had made a decision. This deal can be accepted. Do you believe in me so much, even to the extent that I can defeat your opponents? Fong Lin didn't directly accept, but reply with a smile that was not a smile. For opponents that you can't handle yourself, they should not be ordinary. They can enjoy the clan's resources and even have teachers guiding them on their path. The mythological genes they awakened are definitely powerful ones. Their vitality stats should be higher as well, making them extremely difficult individuals to deal with. Instead of saying that I don't believe in you, why don't you ask yourself if you believe in yourself? Seeing that his thoughts were seen through, Fong Lang's eyes twitched as he laughed sinisterly. During these days, I did an investigation on you and was truly shocked by the results. You stunned everyone during the qualification exam in your school, explosively rising up from someone with a 0.4 vitality stats to 1.5, even passing 20 levels in the illusory martial pagoda. Aren't you also someone who pretends to be a pig to eat the tiger? I'm sure you have been biding your time, waiting to surprise everyone at the college exam to shake free from your fate of being controlled by the clan. From my estimation, your vitality stats clearly isn't just 1.5, it might even surpass 2.0. If the clan didn't arrange you to go to work at the factory, I'm sure you wouldn't have been forced to reveal your true capabilities. Hence, I think that betting on you now is the correct decision. You have a possibility to accomplish it. Evidently, Fong Lang had made many preparations before he had come here and had investigated Fong Lin fully. Are you not the same type of person as me as well? Fong Lin calmly spoke, not feeling surprised at all. After crossing blows with so many schemes of Fong Lang, how could Fong Lin not be able to tell? This Fong Lang wasn't anyone virtuous as well. He wasn't as simple as he looked. His silk pants behavior were only a pretense. Sadly, his conjectures about Fong Lin was wrong. Fong Lin wasn't pretending to be a pig to eat the tiger, but the past him was truly trash. He had only risen up during this period of time, and those who didn't know his secrets would naturally assume that he had been acting earlier, keeping a low profile to surprise everyone at the right moment. But since the truth had to do with his secrets and the genetic equation ability, Fong Lin naturally wouldn't be foolish enough to argue with Fong Lang. With regards to Fong Lang's character, when Fong Lin thought back about everything, he gradually understood Fong Lang's personality better. In order to suppress his opponents, this Fong Lang placed all his hope on him. This was simply staking everything on one throw. Behind his scheming mind, it revealed a craziness in his character. He could even thicken his face, possessing no moral integrity at all. By entering a deal with him, this was simply like asking a tiger for its skin. No, Fong Lang wasn't a tiger. He was a crafty fox. Asking a fox for its skin, Fong Lin really had to be careful not to be betrayed. In any case, if Fong Lang really planned to do something malicious toward him, Fong Lin wouldn't mind teaching him a lesson at that time. Why? You don't dare to accept? You even dared to bet with the head butler, surely you wouldn't be frightened off by this, right? Seeing that Fong Lin didn't reply after a long time, Fong Lang's tone turned teasing as he used words to provoke him. Why wouldn't I dare? At this moment, Fong Lin made a decision. He didn't reply but counter-asked, his calm smile seemingly tinged with a hint of madness and determination. Seeing how suddenly Fong Lin accepted, Fong Lang, on the other hand, actually hesitated. By agreeing so cleanly without negotiating at all. Are you not afraid that I am cheating you? Only when one is crazy enough, will one survive. Let's speak of other things, after first ensuring my survival. Fong Lin calmly spoke. Fong Lang froze, but soon after that, the two of them started laughing. It's true. Only the crazed will survive. Regardless of Fong Lang or Fong Lin, both of them were in desperate straits. If they didn't gamble now, should they just obediently wait for their death? Coming to an agreement so easily. Maybe, behind both their scheming minds, their true nature was that of a madman. Chapter 45, Only the Crazed Will Survive. Since they had already come to a deal, the two of them no longer tried any schemes. They were discussing the possibility of this deal through the locked doors of the imprisonment room. The conflict between them truly counted for nothing. It was too insignificant. The two of them were no longer children. They naturally wouldn't allow such a minor matter to cloud their rationality. After you input the passcode to unlock the shackles placed by the clan on your microchip, you have to leave as soon as possible. If not, after the clan realized it, you wouldn't be able to leave even if you want to. Also, once you have left, you have to think of ways to increase your strength as much as possible. There are many experts that will be participating in the clan's ranking competition, with several geniuses among them having vitality stats as high as 7.0. There's even one that has evolved into a true interstellar cultivator. If not, even if you joined the ranking competition, things would be useless, Fong Lang reminded. Fong Lin nodded, understanding that Fong Lang's words were logical. Once the deadline of the imprisonment is lifted, he had to immediately seek a method to increase his strength. Weakness was the original sin. Ever since he crossed over to this world, although his strength had been rapidly increasing, he still found it tough to move even a single step as difficulties peered down at him from all directions. What did this mean? Clearly, the increase in his strength was still far from sufficient. If he had been strong enough, there would be no need to talk so much. What clan laws, what rules, what identity? Everything would be resolved with a single punch from him. Fong Lin's eyes flickered with light as though he had gained enlightenment. Since this is a transaction, your conditions are also reasonable. The things you want me to do, I'll definitely accomplish them. Fong Lin spoke with a tone that could sever iron. You can tell me the passcode now, right? Right. Fong Lang wasn't worried that Fong Lin would break his promise at all. He was very clear about how dire the situation Fong Lin was facing. If he wanted to reverse his fate, his only way out now was to cooperate with him. There were no other choices. This was also the reason why he came here to find Fong Lin. Remember this. The passcode is WSYZM210712973672. Fong Lang mumbled an extremely long string of characters in one breath. This passcode was clearly almost impossible for ordinary people to crack. Due to the fact that the imprisonment room isolated all forms of signals, the ID microchip lost the ability to connect to the network and became a standalone thing. However, its storage function was still working and Fong Lin recorded the passcode. After he ascertained that there were no mistakes by checking it with Fong Lang again, he saved it into the data vault of his ID microchip. Now, he only needed to wait for the correct time to use it. Alright, today is already the 4th day, and you will be able to exit in 3 days. I've done all I can, it's time for me to leave. Fong Lang stood up. Fong Lin couldn't help but suddenly ask. This question was something that had nothing to do with their deal. You are such a scheming person. Was you trying to cut my queue back then something intentional? That was truly unintentional. Fong Lang laughed, sounding as crafty as a fox. When I saw a low-grade clansman rushing to the upper levels of our Fong clan building, I naturally picked you as a target to bully since I don't know you. After all, I'm a silk pants, am I not? He had an expression like, as it should be so. For a period of time, Fong Lin didn't know what to reply. Only after some time did he continue, given your temperament, why must you act like a silk pants? Upon hearing this question, Fong Lang wasn't surprised. He laughed dryly. I'm not afraid to tell you that my father is the eldest son of the clan leader, and I'm my father's only son. Sadly, my genetic talent cannot be considered good, only managing to strengthen the inherited mythological gene, the coiling snake gene, passed down by the clan by 2 points. I'm far inferior when compared to people of the same age group. If I didn't act like a silk pants, would my wolf-like and tiger-like cousins spare me? Also, how do you know that a silk pants is not my true personality? Silk pants are good, I can bully males and dominate females, doing whatever I desire without the need of feeling worried in my heart. All the minor decisions I make and the actions I take won't attract the attention of others. Look, I'm here to look for you, but none of my cousins react at all, right? Fong Lin had a look of contemplation on his face. It was unknown what he was thinking about. A grandson of the direct line of descent. If the clan leader died, the first successor to the clan would be Fong Lang's father. The second successor would be none other than him. A big tree would attract wind. Sadly, Fong Lang didn't have enough strength to protect his own position and had naturally become the target in the eyes of many. Compared to Fong Lin, Fong Lang's situation in the clan was actually much worse off. This was why Fong Lang pretended to be a silk pants. He didn't want others to be wary of him. It could be considered a self-protection mechanism of sorts. This man wore many masks. Nobody would know when he was telling the truth or not. By entering a deal with Fong Lang, even Fong Lin didn't know if this was good or bad. But this was his only chance left, and he naturally could not miss it. Just when Fong Lang turned around and was about to walk away, he seemed to have suddenly thought of something as he laughed lightly. Don't worry. Although you are imprisoned now, I've already told your parents that you are out working on extra part-time jobs to earn money. You better make sure our excuses match when you leave here. Also, after you flee the clan may make things difficult for your parents, but don't worry about that. I'll take care of them on your behalf, haha. After that, his footsteps sounded out as his voice grew further and further away. Fong Lin's eyes narrowed, his expression turned cold after he heard that. Taking care of his parents? This was evidently using them to threaten him. Fong Lang was using his parents as hostages to ensure that Fong Lin wouldn't double-cross him. With his parents at Fong Lang's mercy, Fong Lin's weaknesses were revealed, controlled by Fong Lang. But since Fong Lang dared to break so many rules of the clan and told him the passcode, entering into such a dangerous deal with him, the two of them were truly crazy at their core. With regards to a madman, would threats be useful? Only the crazed will survive. At this point in time, if one of them didn't act crazy enough, they wouldn't have any chance at all. Now, both of them could barely survive their own predicaments. How would they have time to consider other things? Hence, the two of them understood that this was just an insurance. Fong Lang wouldn't really do anything to his parents. After all, none of them wanted to shred all pretense of cordiality with each other. After Fong Lang left, the atmosphere became silent again. It was as dark as ever without the slightest speck of light. The atmosphere was so quiet that it made one feel despair. Fong Lin didn't stop, he continued to cultivate assiduously. According to the illusory Martial Pagoda's AI, his genetic potential had not been completely ignited yet. His vitality stats should at least be 4.0, but now, it was only at 2.9. After a few more rounds of cultivation, when he discovered that his genetic potential no longer increased, Fong Lin knew that the effects of the potion of life he consumed earlier had already finished. Fong Lin didn't take a break. He chugged down another potion and began to cultivate like crazy. Next, he kept training like a demon, focusing only on strengthening himself. Genetic potential plus 15%, plus 14%, plus 13%. His potential surged up and reached about 472%. His vitality stats also increased, officially breaking through the 3.0 mark and reached 3.1. Potions of life could make up for the overdraft in his life force. Moreover, his genetic equation could convert all nutrients in the potion into genetic potential. Without realizing it, earth-shaking transformations occurred within his body. But also at the same time, Fong Lin's sharp senses discovered that the effects of the potions of life were getting more and more inferior. No matter how good the potion of life was, after overconsumption of it, his body would naturally begin to build up resistance. Hence, he had to make use of the time before the potions of life lost all its effect, all in order to quickly increase his strength. He began to cultivate even crazier, not stopping for even a single moment. He was like someone who didn't know fatigue. His genetic potential soon reached 568%, and his vitality stat climbed to 3.3. With such a high vitality stats, other than the number one genius of his school Duan Yunlu, he most assuredly ranked at the top when compared to others of his school. However, this vitality stats had not reached the limit which Fong Lin's genes could endure. From this, one could see how much life force was overdraft back then due to a lack of sufficient nutrients. Now, he was finally gradually replenishing his life force back. Although he had the heart to continue to cultivate and increase his vitality stats, time was unfortunately running out. The imprisonment date had ended. Chapter 46, Escape Plan. The 7 days of imprisonment is up. You can scram now. The door to the imprisonment room opened. Sunlight streamed in, blinding Fong Lin's eyes. Fong Lin narrowed his eyes and slowly walked out. In a flash, 7 days had passed. However, Fong Lin felt like he had been living in an isolated world for years. Only locking you here for 7 days after you offended the head butler. This is considered benevolence for you. You better watch your behavior after you go back, or we will give you a harsher sentence. Not knowing the immensity of heavens and earth. In the future, you wouldn't be let off with such a light punishment. The disciplinary team members prodded Fong Lin, cursing him. Their attitudes towards this Fong Lin, who had dared to rebut the head butler, were filled with loathing and maliciousness. Fong Lin coldly glanced at them. He couldn't be bothered about these people and directly left the area. Brother, brother. You are back. The moment he entered his home, his younger brother Fong Cheng and his younger sister Fong Xian rushed over, their expressions filled with longing for him. Brother, where have you been the past few days? Are there still any mid-grade nutrient fluids? The low-grade ones are too disgusting to drink, there's even a small from them. The two of them were like little koala bears that hugged him after they jumped on him. They mumbled nonstop, with a gluttonous look on their faces. The two of you are truly little hungry ghosts. I've been out working part-time jobs, or where would I have gotten the money to buy mid-grade nutrient fluids for you two to drink? Staring at his two little siblings, the serious expression on Fong Lin's face relaxed into a smile. He remembered what Fong Lang had said, and he was careful not to leave any loopholes. After that, he directly took out 2 mid-grade nutrient fluids and even intentionally reminded them to drink it slowly. He was worried that they would finish the fluids in a single breath and end up in a state of surplus nutrients, which wouldn't be too good then. Okay. The eyes of the two little ones instantly lit up when they saw the mid-grade nutrient fluids. They were like kittens that lapped the fluids up slowly. Staring at their satisfied expressions, Fong Lin knew that they didn't pay any attention to his warnings. He could only shake his head. He pondered for a few moments and took out his remaining mid-stage nutrient fluids, placing them in the fridge for storage. These nutrient fluids were obtained from Jess Clot and his cronies and were free of charge. For someone like him, whose vitality stats had already reached 3.3, the effects of these mid-grade nutrient fluids were already almost negligible. Their taste was ordinary and wasn't able to assist him in his cultivation. Thus, they were not essential to him anymore. However, to people like his parents and siblings, the mid-grade nutrient fluids were considered a great tonic, very suitable for them to consume. Eventually, his little siblings still drank a little too much. They crawled into their beds and nodded off to sleep almost instantly. His parents had gone off for work long ago. In the dark room, space was truly too narrow. Staying here for extended periods would give someone a choking feeling of being stifled. Fong Lin took a bath and went out. He headed to a remote corner of the park where no one would disturb him. He silently pondered on what he should do in the future. For a period of time, he was completely clueless. Plans were like deformed products formed of this interstellar era. In order to deal with the dangerous environment of the interstellar age as well as social pressure, those from the same clan were forced to gather together, causing the competitiveness in each clan to increase greatly. This was something extremely disadvantageous to the low-grade clansmen. Right now, to Fong Lin, his clan was like a giant cage that was limiting his development. This was simply the survival of the fittest. In order to survive, he had to quickly flee from the clan. Only then would he have enough freedom and time to strengthen himself. But now, he didn't have money. Hence, he needed a job to quickly earn income before he could buy huge quantities of cultivation resources. As long as he had enough nutrients, with the assistance of his genetic equation ability, he would be able to rapidly gain genetic potential to strengthen his mythological genes. He basically wouldn't have any bottlenecks when it came to cultivation, all the way until his awakened genes were maxed out. It wasn't impossible for him to become an interstellar cultivator. Fong Lin calmly pondered, his thoughts grew clearer and clearer. The monitoring of the clan was extremely strict, like a heavenly net. Not even a fly could evade their surveillance. He had already gained the passcode to tamper with his microchip. Initially, he wouldn't have a chance at all, but the appearance of Fong Lang had given him a chance to succeed. But as to the precise steps to be carried out, he still needed more time to come out with a meticulous plan to flee. After thinking for some time, Fong Lin finally smoothed out the thoughts in his mind and came up with a plan. To simplify things, he would act like there was nothing to do for a while just to numb the clan's surveillance on him. After that, he had to find a job that paid well before using the passcode and leave the clan. He could only return after he grew strong enough. There was only 1.5 months to the clan's ranking competition. Time was extremely tight. In such a short period of time, he had to earn sufficient money. He had to earn plenty of money, astronomical amounts of money. To earn so much star coins in such a short period of time was undoubtedly a foolish and impossible dream to the vast majority of people. However, Fong Lang couldn't care so much about it because this was something he had to do no matter what. He no longer had a way out. In that case, the next question appeared. What job should he apply for? Fong Lang used his ID microchip to surf the web and started his search. Should he be a movie star, a virtual gaming professional player, or an online streamer, etc.? He scanned through all of these lucrative jobs one by one. Sadly, these jobs weren't something that he could succeed in a short amount of time. In any case, Fong Lang had never displayed talent in such aspects before. No matter how high his aspirations were, he had to ensure that he could do it in reality, or all his ideas would turn out to be nothing but delusions. Fong Lang was still a student. Other than cultivation and theory, he didn't know anything else. Things were awkward then. His fingers casually stroked the edge of a rectangular-shaped black microchip as he furrowed his brows, continuing to think. Fong Lang suddenly turned his gaze onto the black microchip. Wasn't this the genetic researcher's research notes he had obtained from the virtual auction? How could he forget about this? Geneticists were one of the top-ranked occupations in the interstellar era. Compared to movie stars, professional gamers of virtual games, and online streamers, they earned much more. Everything modulated by a geneticist personally would definitely fetch a sky-high price. Even a small bottle of a potion of life could be sold for unbelievable amounts of star coins. Just the difference between them and the other two types was over 10 times in the pricing. Just based on the ingredients needed, potions of life could already be created by genetic researchers. There was no need for a geneticist to actually create it. However, if a geneticist really personally created a potion of life, it would definitely stir the market up. The amount of commotion it would cause and its effect on the market's pricing would be unimaginable. Fong Lang didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He was trying to look for the mule while riding on it. He already had the answer all along but was seeking elsewhere for it. Just with his knowledge of the ancient Earth era's myths and legends as well as his genetic equation ability, Fong Lang was confident that his talent to become a geneticist would surely be out of the ordinary. Also, with a genetic researcher's research notes to help him get started, there was no doubt that becoming a geneticist was the most suitable occupation for him. However, he wasn't even a genetic researcher now, let alone being a real geneticist. He didn't have enough money to buy the machines or ingredients needed to truly create potions of life. The future was still too far. If he had become a geneticist, just the income gained from the job alone would have allowed him to have whatever cultivation resources he wanted, and he could have created any type of potions he willed. He wouldn't need to be restricted by money any longer. Upon thinking of this, Fong Lang got excited. Now that he was in the right direction, the scope of his job search was naturally reduced, becoming much smaller. Not too long later, he discovered a recruitment notice. Giant Pharmaceutical Company. Chapter 47, Opportunity for an Internship. The Giant Pharmaceutical Company is a famous genetic potions manufacturer in the solar system. They specialized in creating new medicine and potions and were extremely strong financially. Their research and development in this industry far exceed the others in the same industry. This company is located at the Shurtai city on planet Mars and is currently specially recruiting geneticist interns. There are 60 positions to be filled, and for those who performed outstandingly, they have a chance to be promoted into perm staff. For those who are keen, please click on the link. The basic salary is 50,000 star coins. This was a recruitment notice posted up on the top recruitment site of the solar system, the Starry Recruitment Web. This post was stickied on the first page and had already been up there for the past 2 months without being removed yet. Clearly, the number of positions weren't fully filled. Although it was only a geneticist intern, this was still an intern for a top-ranked occupation. With such a higher barrier of entry, not many people would have the chance to enter. In addition, manufacturing genetic potions was a job that required stringent precision to the smallest detail. If there was any deviation, the medicinal effect might be greatly reduced or become completely useless. For this scenario, Fong Lang had personally seen it in the information recorded inside the black microchip before. In the research note, that genetic researcher named Arrows Lincoln had failed over 1,000 times in his quest to create a bubbling blood nutrient medicine. Fong Lang didn't know if he had succeeded eventually or not. This occupation was one with requirements so high that it would make one shiver. Hence, although the conditions for the giant pharmaceutical company was extremely good, given how vast the entire solar system, the positions were still not filled up after 2 months. From this, one could see how difficult the criteria to enter was. Fong Lang wished to give it a try. Shirtai City in Mars? Although Mars was somewhat far away, this was no longer the ancient Earth era. Interplanetary travel now had already become very common. At the very least, Mars was still within the solar system. It was one of the planets nearest to Earth. Compared to Jupiter, Snake King planet, insect race planet, Mars was much better in comparison. In addition, with the existence of passenger space shuttles, such a small distance couldn't count for anything. He knew about Shirtai City. When humanity started to develop Mars, Mars was still a desolate planet where even water didn't exist. Violent winds would gust frequently, and it was simply a barren ground unsuitable for life. To make the most use out of Mars's abundant wind energy, the earliest pioneer who explored there had caused a mountain to crumble from waist up using controlled explosives. The remnants of the mountain transformed into a gigantic stone platform, and they built the first city of Mars there. That city was none other than Shirtai City. Since a city could be built there, there was naturally no problems. Fong Lang felt completely moved in his heart. Although the pay of 50,000 star coins per month was considered extremely generous, that wasn't something he truly cared about. What he cared about was the fact that the giant pharmaceutical company was the #1 genetic medicine manufacturer. If he could intern there, he might be able to learn some systematic geneticist's knowledge. Did he still need to return to school? Fong Lang didn't feel the need to do so. With a vitality stat of 3.3 in Earth High School, he was already considered someone at the top. There was nothing more he could learn there. Why waste time going back there when there was no meaning to it? Next, all he had to do was to wait patiently for the college examination. No matter if his head teacher agreed to it or not, Fong Lang was already determined to apply for leave for the following period. Cultivation was fundamental. He had already passed the qualification exams. Could it be that the school would stop him from participating in the college examination? One had to know that to a high school, enrollment rate was the priority. A student with good grades would naturally be a treasure that they wanted to have. For someone of Fong Lang's current strength, he was already no different from those geniuses that were nurtured by the school. His status could be treated as such, and hence, it wasn't strange for him to have a little special privilege. With regards to this point, Fong Lang balanced things very well. He didn't worry at all. Right now, all he had to do was to contemplate seriously about this upcoming interview for an internship position. This opportunity was extremely rare. So, he must not miss it. Fong Lang was determined to obtain this job, no matter what. The only problem was that he still had to pass an interview. As for those who wished to attempt to sneak through, it was probably impossible. He naturally would take this seriously. Fong Lang temporarily decided to stop his cultivation and started to revise the research notes he had obtained. One couldn't help but say that the information recorded in the research notes were all extremely detailed. He didn't feel it was a disadvantage at all buying it for 40,000 star coins. The information in the black microchip was projected and presented clearly before him. The steps of concocting different types of potions were broken down into elementary steps with concise explanations guiding him. As for the ingredients needed and their usage proportion, everything was stated very clearly. As one vitality stats increased, the benefits it brought wasn't simply an increase in strength and speed. The speed of their thinking would increase as their brain became more active, also giving rise to an increase in ability to memorize things. Keeping in mind of the medicine formulas, the step-by-step process of manufacturing them, as well as the precise timing of adding the ingredients, Fong Lang quickly memorized the content in the black microchip thoroughly. What was pitiful was the fact that he didn't have the money to buy the needed machinery or medicinal ingredients to have a hands-on experience. He could only forget about that and did his best to memorize all the details. Next, it would have to depend on his ability to display his performance before the interviewers. There shouldn't be a problem if he didn't make any major mistakes. After this, Fong Lang started to seriously write up a resume and sent it via email to the email box of the giant pharmaceutical company. An hour later, the company replied, wanting to arrange an interview with him. With such high efficiency, it could be seen that they were truly in dire need of talented interns to fill up the positions they offered. A virtual interview? Fong Lang felt that things were a little troublesome. The technology of the interstellar era was extremely developed and had formed network points that encompassed the interstellar web. To simplify things, the Internet was referred to as the Star Network. Using digital technology to form a virtual universe, humans could be networked through the usage of virtual equipments and devices, allowing them to build a virtual body that could move about freely in the Star Network. The virtual interview was undoubtedly going to be held in the Star Network. They wanted him to create a virtual avatar for a face-to-face interview. What made Fong Lang feel that it was troublesome was the fact that virtual equipments were all extremely valuable and expensive. He didn't have any of them in his home. Moreover, the space there was too small and would be unable to contain it. With no other solution, Fong Lang could only head to a virtual internet cafe. Such internet cafes were built specially to allow those without virtual equipments in their homes to use a virtual avatar and connect to the Star Network. Fong Lang exited his home and soon found a nearby internet cafe. Although an internet cafe didn't really sound impressive, it was actually a grand building that was over 10 stories tall. As Fong Lang exited the elevator and entered the particular floor he had to go, he discovered that different varieties of virtual cabins resembling life capsules could be seen everywhere. Once a human entered a virtual cabin, their nerves would be connected to the equipment, and they would be able to enter the virtual universe. For everything that happened within the virtual universe, all feelings and emotions could be simulated 100%. Of course, you could also lower the sensitivity to 60% or to 0%. You could do so according to what you wanted to. But naturally, the lower the stimulation, the further things would feel when compared to reality. Although entering the virtual universe was an extremely common thing, this was Fong Lang's first time despite him living for so long. After all, his family's background was extremely poor, and they were already very satisfied as long as they could fill their tummies. It was impossible for them to think about entering the virtual universe for leisure. Fong Lang then paid 10 star coins and booked one of the virtual cabins for 2 hours. He chose a virtual cabin at an isolated area and entered into it. The cold metallic wires within connected to his nerve, giving him a light sensation of piercing pain, but everything returned to normal at the next instant. Bzz. A sharp vibrating sound rang out in his ear. Multicolored sparks arcing past like shooting stars appeared in his vision. His body felt a sensation of plunging through the air with great speed into a bottomless tunnel. This sensation felt extremely unbearable. Streams of data flowed into his mind like unending ocean tides, wanting him to explode from overloading. However, Fong Lang understood that this was merely an adverse reaction, which his body was having due to him connecting to the virtual universe for the first time. He didn't panic and maintained his calm, quickly adjusting himself to the sensation. The sensation of falling rapidly gradually stopped, as his feet felt as though they were now standing on solid ground. After returning to his senses, he was already standing in a boundlessly vast world. Chapter 48, Virtual Universe. Interstellar Citizen, Fong Lang. Age, 17. Planet Earth of the Solar System, a citizen from Huaxia City. This is your first time entering the virtual universe. Please create a virtual ID. The voice of the AI rang out in his ears, jolting him awake. He glanced at his surroundings and discovered that he was standing in the midst of a starry space. Clusters of stars shone brilliantly, and countless streams of starry rivers flowed around him. It was like there was a brand new world in each location, filling this space with an infinite amount of possibilities. According to research he had done, Fong Lang understood that this scene would occur every time a human first logged in to the virtual universe interface. To humans of the interstellar era, the space, which they could be active at, was no longer restricted to the real world situated in the boundless universe. There was a digitalized virtual universe as well. The virtual universe mimicked the structure of the real universe, but it was something completely different. The solar systems of the real universe were made up with different clusters of planets, but for the virtual universe, each solar system could be considered a different world. Movies, games, animation. All kinds of elements were blended together. Everything humans could imagine in the real world were all transformed into digital data into a virtual reality, which created a multiverse here. Humans could enter any world they wished to, enjoying themselves as much as they wanted to. Also, there was a time ratio. For every 1 hour in reality, 1 day would pass in the virtual universe, causing humans to become more addicted to it. Many shooting stars shot forward like bolts of lightning. Fong Lang's eyes narrowed as he discovered many bizarre and wonderful creations. There were giant dragons, the Zerg race, flying immortal swords. These were all items one could obtain from different virtual worlds. After all, this place possessed countless possibilities. Everything was imaginary, yet they seemed too akin to reality. Imagination was the only thing that was limiting you. There was nothing you wouldn't be able to do here. Fong Lang felt himself relaxing as he continued to observe. In reality, no matter which corner of the universe you were in, as long as you could connect to the online network, you would be able to instantly interact with the virtual web. Hearing about it was one thing, seeing it with his own eyes was another. To Fong Lang, who had crossed over worlds from the ancient Earth era, this scene was an extremely shocking one. This was a grand era that was unprecedented. This was the virtual universe created by humans of the interstellar era. In reality, humans were conquering countless other worlds, while they were also developing their science and technology to an extent where they could create a virtual universe. The unity of both the real and virtual universe constituted the main body of the human world. Those large-scale companies not only had presence in the real world, but they also had strong influences in the virtual universe. Without entering this place, it was tough for him to imagine how far the technology of humans had been developing. For the first time, Fong Lang felt that he had been too much of a frog in a well in the past, only caring about cultivation, and had completely neglected this other part of his world, the virtual universe. After the initial shock, Fong Lang had recovered completely. He still had something important he needed to do, and he had to make the best use of his time. Who knew how long the virtual interview would take? If the time taken was too long and exceeded the amount of time he bought, he might inadvertently be forced to go offline by the AI of the internet cafe. Everything was possible in the virtual universe. In reality, people had various sorts of limitations. They weren't able to grow wings and fly, they weren't able to dive into the deepest depth of the ocean, and they weren't able to time travel to a time period 10,000 years later. However, as long as you paid for extra services, you could do anything you wanted to in the virtual universe. Nothing was impossible. There were different worlds here, the Avatar world, World of Warcraft, even Naruto. You could get the main characters of any movie to fall in love with you. You could personally experience passing every level of a game that you liked to play. You could roam wherever you wanted to in an anime story. Hence many people could enjoy this forever and never grow tired of this. They immersed themselves fully to the point where they could no longer extricate themselves, blurring the lines between virtual and reality. They would spend all day and night in the virtual universe, even forgetting to rest. According to a phrase in the ancient Earth era, the virtual universe was like a place where one could become an immortal that could soar to the 9 heavens. In order to prevent people from becoming die-hard otakus as they ignored the reality of life, humanity had imposed a prohibition law on the virtual universe. For humans who entered the virtual universe, they only had the online period restriction of more than 6 hours in one sequence, up to a cumulative period of 12 hours in a day. More than that, they would be forcibly ejected, forced to go offline, and could only enter the virtual universe again after 24 hours. They wanted to prevent people from being overly addicted to it. Many people found the prohibition law commendable, but to those soaring immortals, this was simply a calamity from the heavens. There were even people giving this prohibition law the nickname of Heaven's Calamity. Hence, Fong Lang wanted to make the best use of his time. According to logic, as long as he opened his personal system interface, he could simply input the location's coordinates, and he would be teleported there. Things were extremely convenient. But he discovered that no matter how many times he tried to input, there was no response at all. Just when he was feeling extremely confused, an electronic voice rang out in his ears, reminding him of something. Please create your virtual ID. Please create your virtual ID. Please create your virtual ID. Only now did Fong Lang laugh. What a fool he was. It was only natural that he needed to register a name, since this was the first time he was attempting to enter the virtual universe. He thought about it and mumbled softly after some hesitation, Ryukung? The virtual ID's application is successful. Ryukung, welcome to the virtual universe. The virtual universe's AI's voice rang out in his ears. Fong Lang was speechless. He didn't expect that he would succeed in applying for such a name at his first attempt. His genetic cultivation path was undoubtedly the path Sun Ryukong had taken. Hence, he thought of this name. There were billions of humans in the interstellar era, as many as stars in the sky. It wasn't easy to obtain a virtual ID with the name you wanted. This was the same as the pen names of authors in the ancient Earth era. Those that were better sounding were long since used by someone else. There were people who failed to get a virtual ID they wanted despite thinking up to over 10 names. In the end, they could only select names such as I Eat Tomatoes, Chen Dong, Heavenly Silkworm Potato, all these weird names. These are all pen names of authors of Chinese web novels that are at the rank of great gods. He was only trying his luck, but who would have thought that he would succeed at the first try? Hee hee. This was a scene totally out of his expectations. After all, the myths and legends had already all vanished from this age. The legend of great sage Sun was long forgotten by humanity, and there was no one who knew what the words Wukong represented. A person could only have one virtual ID, and they couldn't change it. Therefore, everyone would pick their ID carefully, no one would casually take a random name. Who would have thought that Fong Lin would pick up such a huge advantage? Fong Lin felt he was simply too fortunate, and for some reasons, he felt that this stroke of luck caused him to feel more confident about the interview later. X 263527, Y 678883, Z 1312321. According to the interview document sent by the giant pharmaceutical company, Fong Lin imputed the spatial coordinates. At the next moment, the scene in his vision trembled. His figure transformed into starlight as he vanished from where he had stood. It was unknown how much distance he had shifted through space. Numerous rows of data akin to starlight flashed in the air around him as the motes of light rematerialized Fong Lin's figure. A gigantic planet appeared before his eyes, slowly rotating. A group of moon-like satellites revolved around the planet, forming the words giant pharmaceutical company. Was this the territory in the virtual universe controlled by the giant pharmaceutical company? Although territories in the virtual universe couldn't be compared to the real world, they still had to be bought by money. This giant pharmaceutical company actually owned an entire planet. What kind of unholy wealth was this? Fong Lin's body gently floated down. He only saw a beautiful office lady, swaying her hips as she walked over. Her lanky legs were walking in a suggestive catwalk, her blonde hair dazzled his sight as her eyes caused his heart to stir, truly an excellent creature indeed. Are you Mr. Fong Lin that's here for an interview? Please come with me. Fong Lin didn't mask his appearance. The beautiful OL surveyed him before smiling charmingly. After that, her hips swayed as she walked, causing her fully rounded buttocks to bounce gently as she led the way. Fong Lin drew in a deep breath and followed after. Chapter 49, Spirit Particle Theory. The blonde OL walked in front of him, her hips swaying left and right, forming a S shape that was extremely mesmerizing. Fong Lin focused his vision downward, ignoring all distractions to his state of heart. One could freely adjust the features of their avatar in the virtual reality. Thus, there were all sorts of monsters all around. Ignoring the fact that this OL looked extremely mesmerizing here in the virtual universe, her true self might be a sturdy old mother capable of brawling with black bears and felling trunks of giant trees. So, as the two of them descended down the space, they got nearer and nearer to the planet occupied by the giant pharmaceutical company. Breaking past the layer of clouds, a cloud elevator formed as they slowly descended through the air. Fong Lin didn't feel surprised as anything was possible in the virtual universe. After all, humans were the creator of the virtual universe. As long as they could imagine something, they would definitely be able to do it. As the cloud elevator descended, a storm of thunder, wind, and rain manifested before him. The buffeting winds roared as lightning flashed, creating booms of thunder that were extremely terrifying. But at the next instant, the cloud elevator suddenly transformed, splitting apart from the middle, revealing a room that radiated a feeling of science and technology. 5 figures could be seen already seated here. Are you the one applying for the internship position, Mr. Fong Lin? Judgmental looks turned over. The one who had spoken was a middle-aged man that was seated in the middle. He currently had a smile on his face. These 5 interviewers didn't hide their features. There were elderly and young ones among them, but all were undoubtedly of the white race, Caucasians. In addition, their bloodline was extremely pure, all of them had blonde hair and blue eyes, with no hints of hybridism at all. Fong Lin silently marveled. He then spoke in reply, I am. That's good then. From your resume, it states that you are still a senior high student. It's really not bad that your vitality stats managed to reach 3.3. However, you also said that you are a genetic researcher? It isn't that we wish to doubt you, but you have to understand that even for genetic researchers, the amount of knowledge they had to have on genomics as well as their understanding in it, in addition to mythological theory, all had to be at an astronomical level. All these knowledge needed to be accumulated bit by bit through a long period of time. You are just too young. The main interviewer didn't mask his doubts at all. Fong Lang nodded, not feeling surprised at all. He had long since considered this problem. After all, geneticist is a top-ranked occupation that had an extremely high barrier of entry. He was only 17 years of age. It was only normal that others would doubt him. However, he was confident in himself. The contents of the research notes recorded in the black microchip were completely in his brain. In addition to his knowledge on myths and legends of the ancient Earth era, his foundation definitely wouldn't be inferior to ordinary genetic researchers. Fong Lang contemplated a little before he replied calmly, "My age might be young, but this doesn't mean that my ability is small. It's useless to simply talk. You guys can ask me any questions you want, and after I answer them, all of you will naturally know my standards." The 5 interviewers started slightly. Upon seeing his confident manner, they mutually exchanged glances before nodding. "Prepare well then, the interview shall start now." As for Fong Lang's status as a senior student, they didn't care about it. The students of the interstellar era all had extremely high intelligence as well as high capabilities. For geniuses, they wouldn't waste their time in school. It was very normal for them to come out to society to gain some experience. Fong Lang sat with his chest up, his expression turning serious. "Since you are here to interview as a geneticist's intern, let's start by telling us about the origins of geneticists." On the leftmost corner, an old man with the bearing of a professor issued the first question. This was simple. Fong Lang naturally had already prepared well before he came here for the interview. This question was unable to stump him. He didn't even need to gather his thoughts. He instantly replied, "Geneticists are experts on the domain of genetics. Through researching mythological genes, they attempt to probe the secret of humanity's rise, allowing them to understand the reason behind the extraordinary powers the mythological genes can grant by studying their innate nature. Mythological genes are microscopic substances, but they can act upon the macroscopic universe, allowing humans to manipulate unimaginable powers. Hence, geneticists study the micro to the macro, using the mythological genes as their base as they pursue the ultimate truth." Those interviewers nodded in agreement as Fong Lang continued to speak. One couldn't help but say that although this answer wasn't amazing, it conformed with their knowledge and didn't have any logical flaws in it. But of course, with just an answer like this, it was impossible to make them feel satisfied. The interviewer that was second to the left was a blonde female with an elegant face. She seemed like an ice beauty, and when her turn came to ask a question, she did so with a tricky one. "Our giant pharmaceutical company wants to recruit genetic researchers as interns to concoct and manufacture genetic medicine under our directions. Tell me then, why the majority of genetic medicines cannot be produced by machines and have to be concocted by humans?" The answer to this question was extremely complicated. Fong Lang gathered his thoughts and planned his words. "We have to start by speaking about the so-called extraordinary particles of the spirit particle theory. According to the deducements from Super A.I.S., back in the ancient Earth era, during the desolate periods where science and technology were extremely backward, mythological characters and legends actually appeared frequently. All of them had power enough to shift mountains and overturn seas, and were even referred to as gods by the ordinary masses of humanity. Each ancient civilizations of Earth had different gods, different myths and legends, but why was it that as time passed, these godly characters appeared less and less frequently until they vanished completely? Chinese mythology spoke about the time period of Law's end. Norse mythology spoke about the twilight of gods, the Ragnarok. The Bible and Maya mythology spoke about the end of the world. There are different records about the same thing in all mythologies, cultures, and religions. This is definitely not a coincidence. As time passed, humanity no longer had extraordinary strength and abilities and had no choice but to develop science and technology. However, why did humans begin to awaken their mythological genes and came to control extraordinary powers after the interstellar era started, after humanity ventured out from their original planet? Why did they fail to achieve this during the past era? Because the answer was that they were lacking in spirit particles that were known by its full name as spiritual chi particles. According to findings from an ancient ruin on Earth, during the desolate time period, such spirit particles were in abundance, and some humans with special talents would be able to sense these spirit particles and control extraordinary abilities through interacting with the particles. However, as the amount of spirit particles declined with the passing of time, the appearances of these superhumans gradually vanished, verifying the fact passed down in the myths and legends about the end of the world. All this lasted up until the interstellar era. When humanity started to propagate to the other planets, they discovered the existence of spirit particles once again and realized that they could control the spirit particles through awakening their mythological genes. Fong Lang summarized his points concisely, bringing up a brand new theory. Spirit particle theory was a theory that was juxtaposed with the mythological gene theory of this era. However, the spirit particle theory was too reclusive, and its fame was far inferior compared to mythological gene theory. Hence, not many people knew about it. Fong Lang had also learned about this through his black microchip. He paused for a while before continuing. As to whether the existence of spirit particles could be verified, the conclusion would lead us to the question of what is the difference between genetic medicine and ordinary medicine. Ordinary nutrient medicine has fixed compositions and hence, machines could manufacture it as much as you want them to. However, genetic medicines are different. The reason why is because the slightest change in the composition of an ingredient could lead to great variance in medical potency. The main point is that one has to infuse active spirit particles into it at the point of concoction, and these spirit particles can greatly strengthen one's life force or stimulate their potential. Also, because the movements of spirit particles cannot be determined, machinery cannot accurately detect the change in medicinal potency. Only humans who can sense spirit particles will be able to detect this via their 5 senses and make the necessary adjustments in different circumstances as required. This is why the vast majority of genetic medicines have to be concocted by humans. All of the 5 interviewers had smiles on their faces. This answer had satisfied all the requirements of the question asked. They could sense that Fong Lang was getting into the zone more and more, and his answers got better and better. The interviewer in the center laughed as he asked, "Can you describe the movements of spirit particles in detail?" Fong Lang nodded. Spirit particles are a kind of extraordinary particle. They cannot exist independently and generally have to attach themselves to spiritual substances/creatures. Also, spirit particles have no mass and might not even have a physical form, possessing only wave-particle duality in quantum mechanics. When spiritual creatures neared it, spirit particles would produce a unique transition phenomenon, moving about randomly due to the presence of different spiritual substances that would mutually affect each other. There's no way for machines to predict the movement orbit of the spirit particles, and this is known as the spirit particle motion. For this point, it is extremely similar to the Brownian motion and hence, in spirit particle theory, this is also known as spirit Brownian motion. Chapter 50, Answers like flowing water. Clap, clap, clap. A round of warm applause rang out. Not bad, excellent. Up until now, there has not been anyone else who displayed such understanding of the innate nature of genetic potions and nutrient medicines in their answers. Seems like your attainments in genetic theory is very deep. After Fong Lang had finished speaking, all the interviewers applauded and praised him. The 3 questions asked were all not simple ones, yet Fong Lang had answered them all easily, with answers that were extremely perfect. This Fong Lang isn't simple at all. From left to the right, it was now time for the 4th interviewer to ask his question. He asked another difficult one. Since there's the spirit particle motion theory, why do some nutrient medicine potions like the low-grade potions of life were able to be concocted by machinery? This question was extremely difficult. Fong Lang had never seen a topic related to this in his research notes before. He couldn't help but frown as a look of contemplation appeared on his face. Right, since potions of life were considered a kind of nutrient medicine, why could machines concoct some types of it? Before this, he had consumed potions of life before, and according to the transformations in his body, he could be sure that there were truly spirit particles within the low-grade types potions of life. But this didn't seem to fit in the Brownian motion theory. Fong Lang's brows furrowed even more as he pondered. The interviewers didn't press him for an answer as they silently waited for him to think. Clearly, they knew that this question wasn't an easy one. One had to have extremely deep attainments in genetic potions theory before they could answer it. Fong Lang's mind was now turning like a well-oiled machine. The reason why some nutrient medicines could be concocted by machines definitely had to do with something common in their formulations. But what was the answer? It was like he suddenly thought of it. Fong Lang's eyes brightened as he called out, "It's spirit powder." The interviewers glanced at each other, as admiration and praise could be seen reflected in their eyes. However, they continued to ask, "Why is it spirit powder?" Spirit powder is a kind of inert substance that could contain spirit particles. But although they can contain spirit particles, its exterior by nature had a thin layer of isolation over the material surface that acts as a tiny cage, suppressing the spirit particles' movement. Hence, when spirit powder is dissolved into some nutrient medicine, the average distribution of the spirit particles could be deduced, maintaining the greatest stability to generate a similar medicinal potency throughout concoction. Hence, for low-grade potions that contained spirit powder in their formulations, all of them could be concocted by machines, Fong Lang explained. Excellent, excellent. Those interviewers smiled and nodded. The last interviewer added on to the question, then, do you know the reason why, since spirit powder has the unique nature of isolation, trapping the spirit particles within, why are they not used in the concoction of many other types of nutrient medicine? This time, Fong Lang didn't hesitate. He explained in a concise and comprehensive manner, because, although spirit powder has the special ability of isolating, allowing it to trap spirit particles, the amount of spirit particles in them is simply way too low. It can only be used to concoct the weakest common grade and low-grade nutrient medicine. It's not suitable for other types of potions. Up until here, all 5 questions by the 5 interviewers had been answered perfectly. Fong Lang's answers were like flowing water, smooth and to the point. The 5 interviewers all had smiles on their faces. They respectively nodded, clearly extremely satisfied with Fong Lang's performance. Pretty good. Your knowledge of genetic theory is extremely solid. Now, it's time for us to ask you some questions about myths and legends. The main interviewer, who sat in the center, spoke. Fong Lang smiled. This domain of questioning was the one he was the least afraid of. Let me ask you, in hierarchy of heaven, how many grades can angels be classified into? The leftmost interviewer took the lead and asked. Fong Lang pondered for a moment before he replied, there are a total of 3 tiers and 9 grades. For the upper tier, the incandescent angel, wisdom angel, and throne angel. For the middle tier, the Lord angel, strength angel, and energy angel. For the lower tier, the authority angel, great angel, and ordinary angels. Correct. The interviewer who asked the question involuntarily praised. You have already passed in my perspective. Fong Lang smiled and nodded. The second interviewer from the left then asked a question regarding the Holy Bible. Who are the 7 devil lords of hell? Which sins do they represent? Those who read the Bible before all knew that the 7 devil lords corresponded with the 7 archangels. Fong Lang contemplated, recalling the memories in his mind as he directly answered, they can be classified as Lucifer, the sin of pride; Leviathan, the sin of envy; Samael, the sin of wrath; Belphegor, the sin of sloth; Beelzebub, the sin of gluttony; Mammon, the sin of greed; and Asmodeus, the sin of lust. After answering the question, he quietly wiped away his sweat. Luckily for him, he had been exceptionally interested in mythology back when he had been in the ancient Earth era and had read many novels and stories about various gods and divine beings of different cultures and religions. If not, he truly wouldn't be able to answer it. Why did God expel Adam and Eve from the Garden of Eden? The main interviewer suddenly asked. Because they ate the forbidden fruit. Fong Lang replied. Impressive. More than half of the Holy Bible has already been lost to time. The stories inside were split into many chapters all around the world, yet you could actually answer this. The main interviewer nodded. He was truly impressed by Fong Lang. They continued to ask more questions, but Fong Lang easily answered them all. After that, they stopped the questioning and started to first discuss among themselves. Fong Lang waited patiently, and about 5 to 6 minutes later, the interviewers had a conclusion. Seems like questions about the Bible are unable to stump you. Let me ask you another question about mythology. Listen well. An old man with a turban on his head smiled. His body was as thin as sticks, and he looked somewhat withered by age. There are 3 chief gods of Hinduism. What divine authority do they possess? This is simple. Fong Lang had a relaxed look on his face. The chief gods of each religion were always the most famous in comparison to the others. As long as you were slightly familiar with that myth or legend, you would be able to name all of them. The 3 chief gods of Hinduism, they are respectively known as Brahma, god of creation; Shiva, goddess of destruction; Vishnu, god of protection. The 3 chief gods are the Holy Trinity that shares the same roots and source. They are the embodiment of the universe. I've finished all my questions. Next, you are the only one left. Let's see if your question can stump him. The old man laughed and nodded as he turned to face the last interviewer. Don't worry, the answer to my question is extremely tough. The 5th interviewer seemed to be filled with confidence. This is a mythological system that is extremely obscure. Not many people would know of it. Fong Lang was still very calm. He wasn't frightened by that at all. Pure amazed. Which mythology did this god belong to? What divine authority or laws did it control? The interviewer smiled as he asked. This was an extremely unfamiliar name. Fong Lang instantly frowned. Norse mythology? Wrong. Maya mythology? That's not it. Japan mythology? It doesn't seem to match at all. Fong Lang did a mental run through of the myths and legends of the ancient Earth era. He could be sure that he had never heard of this name before. What did I say? I told you guys he wouldn't be able to answer this. Upon seeing the frown on Fong Lang's face and the fact that he didn't answer after a long moment, that interviewer laughed as he glanced at his colleagues. There was a look of satisfaction in his eyes. The other interviewers turned their gazes to Fong Lang, wanting to see if Fong Lang would be able to answer this. If he could, this would no doubt prove that he had extremely high attainments in the mythological domain. Fong Lang didn't give up, because he was sure that based on one's degree of understanding towards myths and legends, there was no one in this world currently superior to him. If he couldn't answer this, it would mean that no one could. Hence, there must be an answer to this question. This name was definitely among the myths and legends he knew. A light suddenly went off in his mind as though a shooting star had arced through his brain. I know. This god's original name isn't Ahura Mazda. It's Ahura Mazda, the chief god of fire from Zoroastrianism, one of Persia's ancient religion.